Welcome everyone. This session is about graduating in the time of recession, which is a really pertinent topic at the moment. And I'm joined by Jon Rainford, who's going to tell us about his experience when he graduated from university and the subsequent years afterward. So, hi Jon, do you want to just introduce yourself?
Hi Christine, thanks. I'm Jon Rainford. I work at the University of Bedfordshire as a Digital Learning Development Officer and as a lecturer at the Open University. I first graduated from university in 2004, and very soon after I graduated, we had a big recession in this country around 2008, which has really shaped my career and kind of taken me from what I was doing originally to end up where I am now.
Wow. Yes, okay. So what did you study, and I guess why did you study that?
Yeah, so I started off by studying multimedia design at the University of Plymouth. Art and design has always been kind of a passion for me, and it was something I really wanted to do. I ended up doing a foundation degree. So for those of you who don't know what a foundation degree is, it's a very vocational focused course, and they're slightly shorter than the full degree, so 2 years.
Right.
So when I left left university from studying the foundation degree, I worked for a UK office of a big Taiwanese company in their marketing and sales department, doing design for the UK market and working with kind of European sales team, doing a lot of traveling around Europe, all sorts of things that sound fantastic as a job.
Yeah.
So that was kind of my first role. So related to my degree, but not completely doing design as I had been doing in my degree. Mm-hmm. So from there, I kind of moved onto a second role, doing marketing for a big events company. It was a kind of startup company that did essentially what would have been like ice shows mixed with circus. It was a very interesting concept.
Okay.
But this was in 2008. And as some of you may or may not know, 2008 was when we had the big economic collapse in this country. And obviously, one of the big problems with an economic collapse is the entertainment industry is one of the first ones to suffer. So the funding this small startup had disappeared. The clients that we had to work with kind of fizzled out really quickly. So I was put in a redundancy situation from a brand new job in a small startup company in a recession.
Oh my goodness, yeah. So the recession fundamentally affected your career then?
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, as I just said, being made redundant is not great anyway. Being made redundant from a small company is even more challenging. Yeah. But when it's a small company that has no capital, it's not a case of you're redundant with some redundancy pay. It's redundant immediately with no job to go into, which kind of creates a bit of a crisis situation. And, you know, looking back on it now, that was great because it made me think about what I really wanted out of a job. At the time, it wasn't so great. It was horrid.
Yeah, I can imagine.
But I think just to give it a bit of context, when I went out of work, obviously I needed some work to pay the bills. And I think I applied for 70 or more jobs in the first 2 months.
Oh, goodness.
Was applying for anything and everything. And one of the things this made me realise was that I needed a bachelor's degree, so a full degree, really, for a lot of the jobs I wanted to do, which I didn't have. I can come back to that in a minute. But the other thing it made me realise is the jobs that I got offered to me at the end of this whole process were thin and kind of few and far between. I had a choice of going to work at Gulliver's Land, which is a small theme park in Milton Keynes, as a seasonal worker, or going to work in a local school for special needs children as a teaching assistant. Both were minimum wage, but I'll tell you what, minimum wage is a hell of a lot better than what you get when you're on job seekers allowance.
Yeah, true.
So it's kind of, I had to take something, and I decided that the teaching option was the better one to go for. And very quickly after going to this role, I actually realized that this was a really real blessing in disguise because education was something I really enjoyed, and I'd never thought about it before, that it would be a possible career for me. So, you know, this obviously then led me to do some more study with the Open University to get my bachelor's degree, but then to train as a teacher through the University of Bedfordshire.
Oh, interesting. So actually, and I've heard other people say this, being forced to leave your job and look at what else, you know, was around, it turned out to be the right thing for you. And so that sent you back to university, made you try a different job that you found worked for you. And it sounds like those made a huge difference.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the other thing just to say there is, I don't think being in a stable marketing job that was paying well would have ever made me question whether I'd want to go down that route. It was the necessity of, I've got to do something. None of this is particularly well paid. What would I enjoy doing more? It made me really think about what you want to enjoy out of a career, which I think is something we quite often miss because we're too quick to look at the starting salary of a job, or look at, the location of a job, rather than actually think about what is that job about, and am I going to enjoy doing that for however many years.
Yes, and one of the things we encourage students to do is to begin to think about, what would you enjoy about a job? What are your skills? What are your strengths? And do you think the fact that you'd had a couple of years work experience helped you to be able to identify what your skills and your abilities were?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even though I was working in a design and marketing role for my first job, I did a lot of training of clients. So we sold a lot of computer-based products, and I spent a lot of time actually training the salespeople in these companies how to, what the features of these were, how to sell them, how to market them. So actually, really, without realizing it, I was doing a lot of teaching at the time, but it never clicked to me being in that marketing role. That was something I was doing. And I think being in a school environment made me realize, well, actually, I've already got a lot of these skills that would make me a really good teacher, which I think, was something I probably had never stopped to reflect upon.
No.
And I think that's, I say about hidden kind of bonuses of what was quite a bad situation, was actually it did stop me to reflect on what I wanted, rather than just kind of getting on the hamster wheel treadmill of going from one day of work to the next day of work.
Yes, and you discovered other things that you were good at, that you were successful at, which is always good. And we'll enjoy it more. It seems a ridiculously simple point. If we find we're able to do it and get good results with it. So I guess that leads us on to, if you were going to talk to your student you, so to speak, what would you say? What would you tell them now?
Yeah, so I think there's a few things. One, as I said, I did a foundation degree and then went straight into work. And at the time, that was what I needed to do because I felt I wanted to get onto the job market.
Right.
And I think going back to student me now, I would have said actually taking another year of study or another 2 years of study at that point in time was going to make very little difference in the long term in terms of time, but would have made a huge difference of the doors that were open to me at the beginning of my career.
Okay.
And I think, we can be very keen when we're at university to want to get out to work, to want to start to earn that money, but actually kind of taking a more long-term approach and thinking, okay, but where do I want to be in 5 or 10 years? And what's going to help me get there is much better than that short-term focus on what job can I do now?
Yes.
So I think that's one real key message. I think the other one that I tell student me is that success isn't linear. I think we spend a lot of time thinking as a student that we're going to do our degree and then we're going to go into a job related to that degree and then we'll progress up that career in that same company. And I know very few of my friends who have done anything like that. I think, I've bounced from various different jobs, as I've talked about here, but changing direction as well. And that's perfectly valid. And sometimes you might have to take a step backwards to take a step forwards, but that's okay too. Because actually success isn't about that income necessarily, it's about enjoying your job as well. And I think that's something that student me wasn't aware of. I was very focused on what I was going to get paid at the end of it, whether I could have a nice car, whether I could, afford to start getting on the housing ladder, which, is a whole nother thing to talk about. But at the time it was very monetary focused rather than actually enjoyment focused. And really for a long sustainable career, most of our graduates are going to be working for probably 50 years now once they graduate. Sorry, students, that's probably quite scary.
Yes. But then they'll live a long time.
Exactly. But doing something you don't enjoy for 50 years is a horrible prospect. Doing something you enjoy for 50 years, and I know it sounds like a cliche, but when you do something you enjoy, it doesn't feel like work. Every day at work does have its challenges and some days are better and worse than others. But if you fundamentally enjoy your job and you have a passion for it, it's a lot easier to get through those difficult days than if you're doing something you don't enjoy. Yeah,
which is a fabulous point to end on. Thank you so much, Jon. Loads of things there to think about, and great advice. Just to say that if anybody watching this would like to find out more, there'll be a slide at the end on how you can contact the Careers Service. And one of the things we specialise in is talking through, you know, how to find you a job you'll enjoy, and the right options after your degree. Thank you very much, Jon. That was brilliant. Great to see you. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.